All right, so here we are. You start at samsclass.info, and then you click Go the Wrong Way to get to the page. And this is a capture the flag setup, so you're solving challenges, and I will demonstrate things to get you started, but you can go ahead at your own pace. And by the way, I was thinking about this after I wrote this Go workshop. See, originally I wrote a Python workshop years ago, and then it was still on Python 2 instead of Python 3, so it's kind of out of date. And I wasn't too happy with Python 3, and people said, Go is better than Python. It's faster. It's the new hotness. So I said, okay, let me try Go. So I wrote this workshop in Go, and then I heard about Rust. Rust is the real new hotness, and I just made a really short workshop doing why Rust is so valuable and stuck it down here in case you care. I'm going to talk mostly about Go here, but maybe at the end we can talk a bit about Rust, because that is probably the next thing. And, but it's really not ready for prime time. There have been surveys showing 95% of developers say they'd love to use Rust, but they cannot use it on their job because all the libraries and compatibility aren't really there yet. It's too new. But the point of Rust is it's much more secure. The point of Go, I think, is primarily that it's faster because it's really compiled. Anyway, so Go is an important language. A lot of people need it. And so you can use any system. You can run Go on Windows or anything. But what I did is I used a Google Cloud server. This is what I recommend. When I taught at Black Hat, I learned this is really the way to do this kind of workshop, is to try to encourage everybody to use the same kind of system. Although in this workshop, it's probably fine if you use any kind of system you like, but Google Cloud Linux servers are free. And so if you have a Gmail account and you connect it to a credit card, they'll give you $300 of free service. And if you use that up, you can just make another Gmail account, use the same credit card again, and get another $300. I've done it about 20 times. They don't seem to care because Google is number 3. There's AWS and Microsoft Azure racing for number 1, and Google is down at like 5% of the cloud. And so they're giving all this free service to try to beef up usage, and it is not working, which is good for me at the moment because everybody can get free service. It probably means they're just going to give up. I think they've said they're giving it like another 2 or 3 years, and then they're just going to abandon the cloud if nobody gets on their platform. But in the meantime, they're giving away a lot of free service. So once you sign up, you can get a Google Cloud machine, and I've done that. And that's just a Debian 10 cloud machine. So they'll end up with a screen like this. Let me try and make this nice and big so people can see it. When you sign up, you will get a Google Cloud Console panel, and you'll have machines as you make them. If you make a new machine, it will by default make a Debian 10 machine, which is fine. And you can give it any name you want. You can control where it is. You can control how big it is, how much memory and hard drive it has. The default is fine for what we're doing here. Just a standard 10 gigabyte Debian machine is fine. And so I'm not going to bother creating a new one because I've already got one that works, and that's right here. The great thing I love about this is you don't even need to have an SSH client or anything. All you do is click this link, and it opens up an SSH session under your machine. So you got a headless server for free. The only problem is, of course, you only have $300 worth of free service. So if you put a lot of stuff on here and run out of your $300, then they'll just throw it away and you'll lose all your data that you put on there unless you actually start paying money. So that's the point, I think, which is, I think, quite appropriate for a free trial. You can't really use it for production system. You can only use it for something short-term like training. And you have a year to use it if you don't use it much. Linux systems only consume about $1 a day. So that $300 would let you run a machine for about a year. Windows machines consume like $10 a day. Anyway, and they'll no longer let you make Windows machines with the free account. So that's why some of my other workshops where we're using Windows machines, I say you'd actually have to have a few dollars available on your credit card to use them. So once you've got, before going on, I should introduce people. You'll see in the Zoom participants, there is Caitlin, and I don't see Liz there, but anyway, Caitlin is there.
Well, Liz is on Discord, so she's around. She'll probably pop in sooner or later.
Yeah, so anyway, if you have questions, you can ask me or you can ask either of these other people. There's 3 of us here. So this is a pretty small workshop, so there may not be that many questions, but here's the 3 people. That's me, I'm Sam. This is Liz, Elizabeth Biddlecombe, and this is Caitlin. And you can, anyway, we're all here to help if you have questions. This is not a serious CTF. It's not like the answers are secret and you prove something glorious by winning. It's just a way of tricking people into doing homework. So if you're stuck, ask for help. We're glad to help. I don't want people struggling and suffering and failing. And the idea is everybody should learn something that they didn't know when they came in. So we're going to do simple tasks with Go, port scanning, web requests, cracking password hashes, a few encryption, and doing brute force attacks to break into a server. So we'll start with port scanning. You can install Go here. This is sort of a horrible way to do things. You curl something, then you can compare at least you can compare the hash before you run it. Anyway, so you just do this curl and download the Go script, unpack it and run it, and you will have Go on your machine. So here's what Hello World looks like. I've already done it. Now, by the way, I'm using the recommended procedure to correctly structure the folders to put your Go project in. So instead of just making a file and compiling it to one other file, you make a little folder structure and install it. You can use Go the way you would have used GCC, but this is the recommended way, so you get used to including multiple modules. So you make a directory called work, and then you have a source my project hello directory in there, and then you put your file in there, hello.go. So I've already made the ones here, so I'll bring it up here. If I look at my Go, I'm using Nano. If you're cool and you can use VI or something, that's fine, but I'm a wimp and I use Nano. So here's what Go looks like. You import a package main. This is where in C you'd have a include standard IO. And so this the start of my main package is where the program starts. Here's the library running format, and here's the print. So format printf, print hello world, that's all this does. So after you created that file, you compile it with just go install, and then you just run it with hello. So it prints hello world, so that's the simplest possible program. All right, and the next thing to try is a port scanner. So I've got that here, and let me just bring it up here. All right, and get rid of the colors, which I think don't help. All right. So here are a few useful techniques. We now import not only the format library, but the net library and the string conversion library. And now here's how you make a loop, which looks very much like a loop would in almost any other language. One thing to recognize is these colons. In C, you would have to declare the variable before you use it. In Python, you could just use a variable and it will then guess whether it's a string or an integer or floating point, and often get it wrong and lead to a disaster. In Go, you use colon equals the first time you declare a variable to say this is a new variable. It then determines the type here. And after that, you don't use the colon again. That's one way to do it. So here's the port. I'm going to run the ports from 1 to 65.535. And it looks to me like I've got an off by 1 error, and this only goes up to 65.534, but I didn't care. Then I format this thing as an integer to get a port number. And now I use the net dial command to make a TCP connection. TCP to the local host and the port number here. So now, if it's going to print that it's open, if there was no error, if there is an error, it's not going to handle the error correctly. It's just going to have an error without me specifying what to do about it. So this is a really sloppy port scanner. And it's probably time for me to mention that you're not going to learn any advanced Go here, any good programming techniques. We're just throwing together things quickly to try to make them work at all, because I'm primarily a red teamer, and that's the way I generally operate. Let's see, I got to give a Control-C to cancel this, so I just want to get out of here. All right, and so I'm going to run that one. That thing is port scan 1. All right, and so it finds port 22 open and port 80 open and nothing else. So when it had an error, because it couldn't connect, it just went on to the next port. And since I'm scanning localhost, it's really fast, and it can do 65,000 in just a few seconds. So that's good. The next one is a banner grabber, which is port scan 2. So one thing about this, which is a little annoying, is you have a different folder for every project. So you have a different folder and a different file name, the way I'm doing it. All right. So now it's very much like the last one, but I'm only going from port 20 to port 25. And I'm now going to a real URL of one of my servers that I've set up just for this purpose. And now if the error is nil, it's going to print this. And all it's going to do is the same thing, just going through those ports to a real server. But if it does make a connection, it's then going to read the banner. So if the port is open, instead of stopping after printing it's open, it now creates a 1024 byte buffer variable to put it into, and then it reads whatever it can get for the banner and then prints that out. So that's the thing this does. And so if you run that one, that's port scan 2. And see now when it finds port 22 open, it harvests the banner. So we're making a very, very simple port scanner. We're gradually adding features to it here. So you see how to do simple networking. Now we can begin to get in trouble. The next one, we'll try to scan more ports beyond 20 to 24. So if I go here, and clean this up, it's just like the previous program that you saw. The only difference is it goes from 20 to 30. And now every time it's able to connect to a port, it tries to read the banner. Now this is going to make a problem, as we're going to see if you run this one. Scan 3, it goes up to 24 and now it freezes because port 25 is SMTP. So if you can send it a SYN, it will send a SYNAC and complete the handshake, but it does not have a banner because it's not intended to be used from the command line. So it's now waiting for the server to send a banner, and the server is waiting for my client to send an SMTP request like EHLO and such. And it's not going to ever get there. So my program is just frozen here until some sort of timeout happens. So I'll hit Control C. So I was never able to do the ports above 25. So now I have to do a little bit smarter error handling, and the simple answer is to use a timeout. I can at least make it so it doesn't just wait for a really long time, but I can shorten the default time so it will move past things that don't have a banner. So now I import the time library, and down here, I don't do anything else except specify the time up here. Time is 1 times time.second. So that will tell it to only wait for 1 second on this connection before timing out. So that should solve this problem, make my banner grabber a little less painful. And there you go. Now it gives up after 1 second and moves on. So I can now scan more ports. All right. So that being said, let me show you what you do here. When you have completed something, you'll find a flag here. The green box tells you there's a flag. It's flag A51. So you go here and submit flags. And you will find a list of them here. Here's A51. You put in your name, you put in the flag, and submit it. That's how you put your points on the scoreboard. And so, let me see if there's anything more I want to say about this one. After this, there are some challenges. Now that you know the basics, here you have to find a service in a certain port range, and the banner will have a flag. Here you have to do port knocking. You have to connect to this thing. It now tells you to connect to another port, and you only have 3 seconds to connect to it. So you're going to have to read the banner as a string and split it. And here you got another port knocking where the banner reveals another flag. You're going to have to find the string, which is going to be moving around inside this paragraph of junk, and reply to that. So there's a few challenges. And so I think I'm going to stop talking and let people work on this for a while and see how you're doing. If you want to race ahead beyond what I've demonstrated, of course, feel free. If you got questions, let us know. Let me just take a quick look at the scoreboard. Okay, a few people are on the scoreboard, which is good. They got their machines up anyway. So give it a shot. I'm going to stop this recording, but leave the Zoom session going.
Okay, so Sam, I'm going to paste a link to the net package documentation.
Good.
That people should be referencing right now.
Good, that's a good idea. You could actually read the documentation. Now, I never do actually. I just like Google and find like a Stack Exchange example and modify it. But if you're cool, you would actually like read the documentation. Let me find the chat room. Good.
I can tell you, Sam, as a professional red teamer who does a lot of coding, more time is spent reading the documentation than actually like writing code. So
not I do it, but anyway, I cannot argue with your statement. So golang.org package.net. Yeah, there's a good point though. I have occasionally actually read these things, but usually they have far too much information for me. But anyway, this was pretty friendly though. Good. Thank you. I'm glad we get that in the video.